Values that I have were instilled to me by my father. My father was a professional truck driver for over 40 years. He taught me how to be respectful of other people. He taught me how to be honest. And I turned that over, and that's how I operate my truck every day. I'm respectful for other people. I'm honest when I do my logs. When I'm out there on the interstate, I obey the speed limits. I watch my following distance. So those values that my dad instilled in me kind of make me the professional that I am today.
Each year, serious losses to life and limb are avoided by the skill and dedication of thousands of professional truck drivers. But just like other professions, you must continually hone your skills to perform at your best. For this reason, we have developed this course to help you, the professional driver, improve your ability to prevent what some may argue is the most serious threat to America's roadways: rear-end crashes. Rear-end crashes are considered one of the 4 critical crashes because of the severe losses that they potentially inflict. From the pain and suffering to the emotional and financial impact felt by those involved, rear-end crashes can be devastating. At the end of this module, you should be able to explain the loss factors that increase the likelihood of a rear-end crash, calculate the stopping distance your truck needs to successfully avoid rear-ending a vehicle in front of you, estimate the following distance between your vehicle and the motorist in front, and finally, determine the appropriate Essential 7 driving techniques that are best for preventing rear-end crashes. In addition, there are 5 questions at the end of this module to reinforce your understanding of the material. 4 factors that increase the likelihood of a rear-end crash include following distance, speed, distractions, and improper reaction. As you look at this list, wouldn't you agree that each of these factors that contribute to a rear-end crash is potentially within your control? This is an important point to acknowledge because, as you recall, this program, Value-Driven Driving, is all about decision-making and applying your own personal and professional values to the choices you make behind the wheel. We consulted your peers and tasked them with devising a list of proven driving techniques that could not only help prevent rear-end crashes, but other losses as well. They agreed on the Essential 7 driving techniques, which includes maintain proper following distance, observe proper speed for conditions, avoid distractions, be attentive to the road ahead, react properly to hazards, maintain one lane, and yield the right-of-way. With these in mind, let's examine each loss factor associated with rear-end crashes and determine how you can prevent them. The first loss factor that increases the likelihood of a rear-end crash is following distance. As a professional driver, you know how difficult it is to manage the space around your truck, especially in front of you. With increased traffic congestion and drivers weaving in and out of your lane, keeping a safe following distance may seem impossible at times. Nevertheless, you can drive in a manner that protects yourself and others as best you can. So how close is too close to the vehicle in front of you? To answer this, you have to determine how long it takes to actually stop your truck at a given speed. For today's training, we will define stopping distance as the space required to completely stop your truck, from the time you perceive the need to stop and react, to the time your brakes are fully engaged and the vehicle comes to a complete stop. This brings us to our first learning objective: calculating stopping distance. In order to stop your vehicle in time and avoid hitting the vehicle in front of you, you must determine how long it takes to actually stop your truck at a given speed. To calculate stopping distance, you first need to calculate how many feet you're traveling per second. The formula we'll use is speed in miles per hour multiplied by 1.5. The sum is your vehicle's feet traveled per second. For example, at 65 miles per hour, you're traveling 97.5 feet per second. We'll round this up to 100 feet per second to make it easy. As you can see, at 65 miles per hour, you're traveling 1/3 the length of a football field per second. Now let's calculate how long it would take your truck to actually stop at this speed. Stopping distance is based on 4 factors: perception time, reaction time, brake lag, and braking distance. Perception time is how long it takes you to perceive the need to stop, such as noticing the brake lights on the vehicle in front of you have come on. If you're fully alert, meaning you're not distracted by something like your cell phone or fatigue, your brain can take up to 1.5 seconds to perceive the need to stop. Since you're traveling 100 feet per second, multiply your perception time of 1.5 seconds by 100 to get 150 feet traveled per second. Next is reaction time. Reaction time is how long it takes you to react and put your foot on the brake pedal. This takes approximately 1 second to do, so 1 times 100 equals 100 feet traveled per second. Brake lag refers to the time it takes for the air brake system to function. This is generally 3/4 of a second, or 75 feet. And finally, the braking distance is how long it takes the truck to actually stop once brakes are applied. Assuming the brakes are functioning properly and the tires have adequate tread and traction, a fully loaded tractor-trailer could take an additional 340 feet to stop. If you add all 4 figures together, this equals 665 feet, which means in ideal conditions, when you are fully alert and not distracted, road conditions are dry and not slippery, and your tires and brakes are functioning properly, you need to leave yourself at least 665 feet in order to stop your vehicle in time and avoid a rear-end crash. So how do you accurately gauge this distance while driving? Many CDL tests suggest counting seconds based on vehicle length at certain speeds. Another option the professional drivers we talked to suggested is to maintain at least 6 seconds of following distance, regardless of vehicle length and speed, and add 1 second for every hazard present, such as snow, sun glare, construction zones, etc. For both cases, counting seconds is the preferred method because gauging distance by sight alone is very difficult and unreliable. With that said, here's how the drivers we spoke to came to their recommendation of 6 seconds. At 65 miles per hour, an automobile requires approximately 150 feet to stop. If you're 1 second behind that vehicle, which is only 100 feet, you will impact that vehicle in 250 feet. Knowing your truck needs at least 665 feet to stop, it's clear that 1 second of following distance is not enough space. Now let's triple your following distance to 3 seconds. A 3-second gap equates to 300 feet. Add in the auto stopping distance of 150 feet, and your potential impact occurs at 450 feet. Still not enough following distance to avoid a rear-end crash. It's not until you reach 6 seconds of following distance that the picture changes. 6 seconds equates to 600 feet. Add another 150 feet for the auto stopping distance, and now you have 750 feet to stop your truck, which is more than enough space at this speed. Just remember, this is in ideal conditions. If additional hazards are present, like rain, ice, or you're being tailgated, you'll want to add an additional second for each of these. The best way to count seconds is to look at the vehicle in front of you, and when it passes a stationary object, like a road sign, tree, or overpass, begin counting. 1001, 1002, 1003, and so on, until your vehicle passes the same stationary object. If you count 6 or more seconds, you have a proper following distance. If not, you need to slow down and leave yourself more space. Here's a demonstration in a real-world setting. From inside the cab, you can see the vehicle in front of you. Now, when that vehicle passes a stationary object, start counting 1001, 1002, and so on. In this case, the driver has over 6 seconds, which is just right for these conditions. Now let's look at some drive cam footage of a distracted truck driver. To the left is the in-cab view, while on the right you see what the driver sees outside. Wow, that was close. The driver was lucky not to rear-end the truck ahead and could have caused a lane change or loss of control crash when he swerved into the adjacent lane. This near-miss incident was clearly preventable. Let's look at it closer. The driver starts out with plenty of following distance, but when he starts using his cell phone, he fails to see traffic slowing ahead. The driver took evasive action that nearly ended in catastrophe. This is a good example of why following distance is key to preventing rear-end crashes. For this reason, professional drivers listed maintain proper following distance as one of the essential 7 driving techniques necessary to preventing rear-end crashes. The second loss factor that increases the likelihood of a rear-end crash is speed. We can agree that out on the road there are vehicles going all different speeds. From the fast and furious drivers racing to get where they want to go, to those driving Miss Daisy and leisurely taking their time to get to their destination. In either case, varying traffic conditions can make managing the space around your truck a constant challenge. This is why the speed you choose to drive your truck has a direct effect on your ability to maintain proper following distance. Having said that, would you agree that at any given time you are either driving your truck faster than the flow of traffic, slower than the flow, or the same? Let's look at how each of these driving decisions affects your risk of a rear-end crash. If your speed is faster than the flow of traffic, you will continually move up on slower vehicles, making it very difficult to maintain proper following distance on a consistent basis. Besides wearing down your brakes faster and consuming more fuel, going faster than the flow of traffic requires you to constantly change lanes in order to move around slower vehicles, thus exposing yourself to an increased risk of a lane change crash. Another approach is to drive with the flow of traffic. This is the common choice, but it presents 2 problems. One, if the flow of traffic is exceeding the posted speed limit, you would have to break the law to keep up. Besides the increased wear and tear on equipment and risk of a crash, speeding violations affect your insurance, SMS scores, and driver qualification. Plus, what if another vehicle pulls in front of you, like we see here? As you can see in this drive cam example, the truck was traveling with the flow of traffic, if not a little faster, and didn't have proper following distance to start with. The car made a dangerous and aggressive move when it cut off the truck, and naturally, the truck driver was not pleased. He had to brake hard to avoid a rear-end crash, then sped up to get back in the flow of traffic. Professional drivers agree that having to constantly slow down and speed up is frustrating and only adds stress to their trip. The third option is to drive slightly slower than those around you. Some drivers say this approach makes it feel like they're driving backwards or are a hazard to other vehicles. But in reality, neither is true. You're still moving forward, and you are not the hazard. The faster, more aggressive vehicles around you are creating the hazard. This leads us to our next Essential 7 driving technique: observe the proper speed for conditions. You can minimize the risk of being involved in a rear-end crash by reducing your speed 2 to 3 miles per hour below the posted speed limit. This allows faster traffic to naturally flow past you. And if a faster vehicle pulls in front of you, it too would most likely pull away with little effort on your part to reestablish proper following distance. The third loss factor that contributes to rear-end crashes is distractions. Whether you're in the middle of rush hour traffic or passing through a school zone, unexpected hazards can appear very quickly, and that is why you need to be fully alert and aware of your surroundings when you're behind the wheel. There are 3 types of distractions: mental, visual, and manual. Mental distractions include daydreaming, talking with a passenger or on a cell phone, and being preoccupied with work, family, and other issues. In each case, the driver's mind is focused on something besides driving. Next are visual distractions. Visual distractions can be anything viewed inside or out of the cab that diverts your focus away from driving. For instance, looking away too long to read a billboard, gawking at a passing crash scene, or even staring too long at a fixed object you're using to gauge your following distance. In these cases, instead of looking ahead for signs of stopping or slowing traffic, you're looking elsewhere. And finally, manual distractions are when a driver uses one or both hands to perform a secondary activity while driving, such as texting, eating, drinking, adjusting the radio or GPS, and reaching for an item dropped on the floor. In all of these cases, the driver is distracted long enough to lose sight of vehicles stopping ahead, like we saw earlier from the dashcam footage. Just think, if you're driving 65 miles per hour and get distracted for 3 seconds, you will have driven the length of a football field without knowing what was happening in front of you. That is why professional drivers added avoid distractions like eating, drinking, texting, talking on a cell phone, and daydreaming to the list of essential 7 driving techniques. If you need to make a call or get out of the truck to refocus, find a safe place to pull over and take care of business without letting it affect your driving. Furthermore, be attentive to the road ahead. Focus on driving and what's happening in front of you to avoid rear-end crashes. The final loss factor we will discuss is improper reaction. To better illustrate this, we reviewed a driver's statement concerning a rear-end crash that we hear too often. Quote, "I was traveling in heavy traffic when I saw brake lights up ahead. I checked my left mirror to see if the left lane was clear so I could move over. There were 2 cars approaching fast. When I looked back ahead, traffic was still stopping. I hit the brakes but was unable to stop in time." Clearly, the driver's first reaction to traffic stopping ahead was to find an escape route to the left. The problem is that the time spent looking for an escape route took away from the time needed to get stopped. For this reason, drivers added react properly to hazards as an essential 7 driving technique. The proper reaction to traffic braking ahead is to stay in your lane, get off the power, and get on the brakes. A good way to mentally practice how you would react to hazardous situations is to continuously scan your surroundings and ask yourself questions like, what if a deer suddenly jumped down on the road? Or what if traffic ahead stopped suddenly? How would you react? This can be very helpful in keeping you mentally sharp. To recap, we discussed how rear-end crashes are considered a critical crash because of the severe losses they can cause. Factors that increase the likelihood of a rear-end crash include following distance, speed, distractions, and improper reaction. To determine if you have the proper following distance, we first demonstrated how to calculate the stopping distance of your truck. At 65 miles per hour, it takes a minimum of 6 seconds to stop your truck in ideal conditions, but you should add 1 second for each additional hazard present, such as ice, snow, fog, and rain. The easiest and most reliable method of gauging proper following distance is to count seconds using a stationary object. Once the vehicle in front passes a fixed object, start counting until you pass it. If you're closer than 6 seconds, you'll want to ease off the accelerator and give yourself more room. We also discussed how speed can increase the likelihood of a rear-end crash. By slowing down 2 to 3 miles per hour below the posted speed limit, this can help you maintain proper following distance by letting the flow of traffic naturally pass you by. Distractions can be another factor in rear-end crashes. That is why drivers recommend putting away your cell phone, avoid daydreaming, and do not eat or drink while driving. If matters need your attention or you feel stressed and fatigued, pull over to refocus, rest, and respond to messages. And finally, improper reaction can factor into rear-end crashes as well. Mentally practicing how you would react to a hazard, like what if a deer jumped out in front of your truck or traffic stopped ahead, can help train yourself how to react properly in various situations. To minimize the risk of a rear-end crash, drivers agreed that the essential 7 driving techniques are the best methods a driver can use to prevent a rear-end crash. These included maintain proper following distance, observe the proper speed for conditions, avoid distractions, be attentive to the road ahead, and lastly, react properly to hazards. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about preventing rear-end crashes. We accomplished our learning objectives today and hope you found this material insightful. Now, as you leave, please take time to reflect on how this message fits into your own personal and professional values. We hope protecting life is a principle you hold so dearly that it is beyond compromise, and you will use the protective driving techniques discussed today to help prevent rear-end crashes. On behalf of Great West Casualty Company, we appreciate the invaluable service you bring to our country, as well as your efforts to be a value-driven driver. If you have any additional questions about this program, please contact your Great West Safety Services Department.